Why your family hates it, absolutely hates it, when you are happy or you are having fun without them. It is still very unbelievable for me to sit down and make these episodes about how unhealthy the relationship I have between my family and I. Just the other day, I spent a holiday with a family that I've gotten to know, and they invited me. It was a Saturday. They invited me for a braai. They had a couple of their family members that had invited. So it was almost like a very last minute thing. My mother was home. It was a Saturday. She wasn't going to work. My sister was obviously also home. And I remember that day, on that Saturday, I woke up, I did the laundry. And then I think later at like 11 or 12, I got the call from this man inviting me to come and join them for the family braai. And I was like, yeah, I got nothing to do, and probably there's like gonna be no electricity, so might as well go. And I think this is like a new side to me, if I can just derail a little bit, because in the past I avoided such things, but God is teaching me to be able to socialize in a healthy way that is reasonable or within my limitations as like an introvert or a reserved person. Because for me, I used to think like, being out there, like just going for a simple braai, because there weren't even like a lot of people at the braai. There were like, how many were we? We're like 5 or 6. So that's not even like a party or like a big social thing. But for me, those kind of things really scared me, like terrified me for the longest time, that I would decline the invitations or I would make up an excuse as to why I couldn't come. But because I'm on this journey of healing and exploring my personality and understanding that I don't have to be super bubbly, I don't have to be super talkative, I don't have to be super social to be able to go to these types of gatherings or social type of situations. I don't have to be something I'm not. And so I said yes. I said yes when he said, like, you want to come and join us for a braai? The braai was supposed to start at 2. I'm like, okay. I finished with my laundry, and then I told my family that, hey, I just got invited to a braai and I'm going to go to the braai. Even with me telling them, I knew that they were not really going to be happy, because my family and I think we are very codependent. I have mentioned this before, that we grew up just being us, like just being us as a family. We didn't really get along with the extended family. We didn't really have friends. My mother didn't really have friends. So it was always us, us, us. And so anything that would be considered fun or getting away, we've always done it together. And I think even as a child, there was always a part of me that was always worrying about my mother, because I saw how dependent she was on just like, having fun with us or doing things with us. And I think I always worried about my mother, whether when we finally leave, go and stay at our own place or get married, I always worried about her, like, how is she going to cope? Because I saw that we were basically everything. And I think we still are. Just that for me, I'm disconnecting from that now. I am not responsible for my mother. There are a lot of parents who go through this, where they get to that point. Sure, it might be hurtful, but it's also normal for a child to grow and then be independent and want their own space, move to their own space or get married. It's very normal. And part of me feeling very worried about my mother, it's something that she emotionally like put on us, that, we are all she's got, and she is all we've got. That's the type of mentality that I think my mother raised us with. And maybe it seemed healthy at the time to think like, oh yeah, we've got each other, family, we are all we need. But to a certain extent, it's very unhealthy, because there's more to life. Like, I can have my separate friends outside of my family. I can have a husband. I can have a life of my own. And so as a child, I never thought that far about it. I just worried about my mother and how she would cope should we ever move out. I mean, she's a single woman. So eventually she would be left in this house by herself, to herself. And that worried me. But I don't worry about that anymore because I'm responsible for me. Like, yes, we should care about our family members, but I won't lie to you. I'm honestly at a point where I don't think I care about my family. And that is a very big statement for me to say because all I've ever done is emotionally exhaust myself by simply caring for my family. I cared for my family and worried about them so much more than was necessary. And now I'm at a point where I just simply don't care. I just want to live my life. I want to be independent. And I don't want to be tied down by my family. Just because you are my family doesn't mean I can't have my own life. And so when I told them that I'm going to the braai, I already knew that they were not really going to be happy about that. But here's the thing. My family doesn't necessarily, maybe they don't fully show that they're not happy, but they have some tell signs. And so obviously I could tell that they were not really happy that I'm going to this braai. And because my family and I, here's another thing that actually made my family and I to always spend so much time together. It's because we've always known the same people. And that is something that I'm really trying to avoid going forward. I don't want to know the same people that my mother knows or that my sister knows or that my mother and my sister knows, because the people we would know and would maybe end up calling family or friends, they were usually from church. Now, obviously, my family and I, we would go to the same church. So, like, we kind of had like a circle of friends or people that we knew that we all knew. Like, I knew my sister's friends. They were never my friends. Like, that was something that just never appealed to me. But if I had a friend at church, it almost ended up being like the family's friend, which I think that was like crossing a line, like my friend from church, even if it's the same church that we all go to as a family, is still just my friend, like she might know my family, she might know my mother, but I think what happened between my family and I also include myself, I also blame myself in this because I participated in this unhealthy behavior where, like my mother's friend became like the family friend. So we just knew people that we all knew, like you couldn't like really know other people separately and have like your separate life, which now I'm starting to understand. It is so important. It is very, very important. So I tell them, now the family that had invited me, I've known them for a couple of months this year. So my family, my mother and my sister, they don't know these people. And I've been trying my best for them to not know them because I don't want my worlds mixed anymore. I was actually talking to someone about this and they said that is a very unhealthy way to live. And I understand where they're coming from. But I'm at a place where I feel like I just have to protect myself. I have to protect my space. I have to protect the relationships that I have with other people. And for me, the way to protect those relationships is by making sure that my mother and my sister don't know the people that I know. Because I feel like they just bring such a negative atmosphere to the relationships I have. And they have this tendency to take over. Before I know it, the people that I befriended or maybe started any type of relationship with, those people end up being more of their friends than mine. So this is why I'm saying that usually there's like a line that is crossed, So I tell them that I'm going to the braai on Saturday. And, I can tell from their faces, and I knew that they were not really going to be happy, but I just stated it, in previous times where the dog keeps barking so much. In other times where I would tell my family, like maybe I'm going somewhere or I'm doing something without them, I think I kind of felt guilty, like as if like I'm supposed to do everything with them. I'm supposed to have fun with them. I'm supposed to invite them. But in this case, I didn't want to invite them. I didn't want them to know the people that I know. I don't want them to know the people that I know right now. I don't want them to know this family that I'm currently in a good relationship with. I don't want my family to know them because, this dog. When I tell them this, I can see in their faces, but obviously they're going to try to pretend like they're fine. And then my sister is like, and I even lied. That's how abnormal and unhealthy my relationship is currently with my family. I actually lied. I straight up lied. I said I was going to a friend's bride, but I was actually invited by this man who is starting to become like a mentor to me through a particular activity that I'm currently engaged in. So he invited me, and his son was going to be there, and then three other family members were going to be there. Four. So in total, I think it was like 7 of us. So I actually didn't say that. I didn't say that, hey, there is this sir, this mister, this father figure, sort of in my life who has invited me to this bride. I just said, it's a friend of mine, and that's what I said. Obviously didn't invite them because I didn't want to. And I think it stings more for my sister because, obviously it would be weird to bring like your mother to a friend's bride. But then with like my sister, these are the type of things like sometimes I would invite her because I thought like, okay, she's my peer, like it would be understandable to bring my sister. And also another reason that I would bring my sister, like say I was invited by a friend somewhere, it's because I felt too anxious and too awkward to be there by myself. And so let's say had a friend actually invited me to a bride, I would have asked my sister to join me because, she's the social butterfly. And I think I was using her as a crutch, I believe. But I was also using her because I felt like I'm not social enough to be in that situation. So maybe sometimes I would want to go to a friend's party. Like I remember one time in New Year's Eve, a friend of mine from high school invited me to like a house party, and then I took my sister with me because for me it felt like, oh, I'm not social enough. I'm not talkative enough. What am I going to do there? But now I'm learning to not be dependent on my sister's social abilities, but to learn to stand on my own 2 feet and be there. So in as much as I was a little bit anxious for like to go into the bride and meeting Mr. X, let's call him Mr. X, and meeting Mr. X's family because I don't know the other side of the family, I was anxious. And that's just always how I feel, when it comes to meeting people or being in a social situation. But this time I was like, no, I'm going to a bride. I didn't bother inviting my sister. So I think that also might have stung for her because she's used to me just kind of like taking her along because I'm afraid that I'm not going to be social enough. So I just told them this, and my sister asked and was like, is it safe? Are you going to be safe? They're like, I hate it when my sister pretends to be like caring, but she's actually condescending. She's actually just patronizing. Like the number of times my sister has gone to her friend's thing and I never asked her that question. Like, what are you saying to me? Are you saying I'm so dumb? I'm so stupid. I'm so naive that I would go to an unsafe situation? Like I have a brain of my own. I think about these things. I'm a woman. It's one of the things that you have to think about. Is it going to be safe for me? If it's not safe, what am I going to do? And so for her, it was a very patronizing question. It wasn't because she cared. It's because she felt excluded and she just had to, like point out something. And I think she was just trying to get brownie points from my mother. And I think she thought like my mother would like second her and be like, oh yeah, is it safe? Maybe you shouldn't go. Listen, the world is not always safe. Okay. But that doesn't stop us from living. That doesn't stop us from going to a bride. That doesn't stop us from socializing and meeting other people. Do we have to be cautious? Sure. All the time, unfortunately. But for her to just even ask that question, like luckily my mother didn't jump on the wagon and be like, oh yeah, is it going to be safe? Like the bride was at 2:00. Like in broad daylight. Yes, dangerous things can happen in broad daylight, but it wasn't like I was going at night. But the story does end at night. So let me continue with the story. I tell them this, and my sister asks, she asks me this patronizing question as if she cares. She doesn't. She does not. Believe you me, I know she does not. She was not really caring about my safety. She just wanted maybe a reason to make me not want to go. Maybe that was like her agenda, but her agenda was definitely not caring about my safety. That was not it. That was just not it. I tell them this, I can see that they're not quite happy about it, but I'm like, boo freaking who? Like, just let's all get our own lives. I really think like we need a sign, we need a board here in this house that says, get your own life. That's the problem with this family. There's so much codependency. Like, I don't have to always have fun or do things with my family. I can have my own life. I can be happy without my family. I can have fun without my family. And this frustrates me so much because it has went on for such a long time without me even realizing that, hey, we are actually just locked in this unhealthy bubble where we feel like we always need each other. There are times where families need each other, but my family and I, there's just a lot of dependency on each other. And that has been planted by my mother's fear of us leaving her. And so she made us so dependent on her that, like, if you are happy, you should be happy, within the family. If you are having fun, you should have fun within the family. And you know what's crazy? She doesn't even think that's the mentality she has. Because I really don't think my mother has any reasoning ability. I don't know if it's something she just doesn't want to admit, or she just truly doesn't see it. Either way, it frustrates me and it annoys me. It annoys me so much. I end up going to the braai. I get myself ready. I look cute. I go to the braai. It actually turned out pretty well because I was like anxious to meet like the other family members, but they were cool. They were chilled. They were older. The only person who was about my age was Mr. X's son. But it was so much fun. It was fun. We had food. When I got there, they were just about to dish up for everyone. We got food. We had cold drinks. It was a good time. And then the family members, they had to leave early. And then there was like 3 of us left. And Mr. X was like, I'm going to chill in my room. You guys can do whatever. We decided to play like board games and all of that. So we went into the dining room, started playing games, da-da-da-da-da. And before I knew it, was like 6 o'clock. And because summer, well, it's still spring technically, because the sun it goes down super early still. So at like 6, it was already a little bit dark. And then at 7, no, I think 6:30, I was thinking to myself, you know what, at 7, let me actually leave. So here at home, we actually pray at 8. That's the prayer time. So my intention was to actually catch prayer time. I was like, you know what, I have to be home before prayer time. And then I'm thinking we're sitting there just having fun. And then I text my family that, hey, no, I didn't text them. They called me. Yes, they called me. At 7, they called me. That was the time where I was intending to leave. Mr. X had promised that he would drop me off. He would get me home. So I was like, you know what, at 7, I'm going to tell him that please take me home. And then at 7, my sister calls me. My sister. She calls me. She calls me with my mother's phone. So I answer the phone thinking it's my mom. And then she says, when are you coming back? And then like right there, I kind of changed my mind. I was like, you know what, let me make it 8. Because I'm already annoyed. Why are you calling me? You are not my mother. Like, why are you calling me? And I had said when I left, I said to my mother that I'm going to be back a little bit late. Because I thought to myself, it's a braai. Like a braai kind of gets nice and fun around 5, 6-ish. So like my intention was to actually come back at around 7 or 8, And then I think maybe my mistake was not saying the time exactly when I was going to come. And I think that's just the kind of thing I have to I have to always be very specific with this type of family because it seems like they're always waiting for me to just, get offline, like to say, yeah, you see, now you can. It's like they're just waiting for me to do something wrong so that they can kind of ruin my mood, because obviously I would have gone to a braai and had a good time, but then if I come back, then I'm gonna feel some type of way. Anyway, she calls me at 7 and then I change the time. I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna tell her I'm gonna come back at 8. I tell her that I'm gonna come back at 8. And then we were just having a good time. And at that time, it was just the three of us. The other family members had left. Mr. X was just chilling in his room. So it's just the three of us now. We are chilling. We're listening to music. We're having snacks. It's just a good time. It's like chilled. And then comes 8. I text my family that I'm now waiting for a transport. And this is a lie. I was lying, because I was not waiting for any transport. The transport was there. Like any minute that I actually wanted to leave, I could just leave. So I lied to them again, because remember, initially I did lie and said that I'm going to a friend's braai, but I was actually going to Mr. X's home. And then now I was lying because like at 8, we were still like having a good time and I hardly get out of home. Like I'm unemployed. All I do is stay at home all day long. I hardly leave the house. I hardly do something that's fun. I was enjoying myself, okay? I was enjoying myself. And then at 8, because now I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's prayer time. Let me just text them and I tell them that, yeah, I'm waiting for the transport. Big lie. Tell them that I'm waiting for the transport. And then after a few minutes, my sister texts me and is like, where's the transport? You know how mama gets like yada, yada, yada. I am so bored that in this whole situation, it's my sister speaking to me. Like, I would have been bored if it was my mother too, because heck, like she knows we hardly do anything fun. Honestly, even with my family and I, we're just the type of family that's always indoors. I was having a good time. I was with other people. I was outside of this house. I was having a good time. Blame me for having a good time. And so eventually at like 8:30, I'm like, you know what, let me leave. I tell Mr. X, like, please get me home. I eventually leave and then I come back home. And then when I come back home, I find them already praying. I just joined the prayer. And then I apologized because I knew I had to apologize. I apologized that, hey, I'm sorry, the transport took forever to get there. Like the fact that I'm even leaving a lie. I can't just say, hey, I was having fun. And I was enjoying myself. Because even that, I know that would spark some jealousy within them. And I can't really explain it well, but I have seen a number of cases whereby when I'm happy or something good is happening to me or I'm feeling good about myself or I'm having fun without my family, I have seen that they're not really happy for me. It's not particularly something that they say. They're like, oh, you're having fun without us. They don't necessarily say that, but I see that they're not happy, that I'm happy without them. I see that they're not happy, that I'm having fun without them. Again, this goes back to a lot of codependency issues in this family. I come back and then I apologize, like, I'm sorry, the transport took forever to get there. And then I see, like, nobody says anything. They don't respond to me. Okay, so that's the mood that we're going with. And then I just go straight to bed. I'm like, go to bed. I go and brush my teeth. Did I make myself some tea? No, I don't know. But I just did a couple of things, brushed my teeth, and then I went straight to bed. No one was talking to me. Not my sister, not my mother. You know what frustrates me the most with my sister not talking to me? It's because my sister, she has had times just about a week ago. She actually had a thing with her friends that lasted up until 9. And when she got back, because I know that my mother gets annoyed. Listen, first of all, my sister and I, we are adults. We can actually stay out till late. But because we respect the fact that we are still living in my mother's house, we try to come back at a reasonable time. We are not even people who go out that often. Like, keep that in mind. We are not the type of children that go out like every weekend or so. It's every once in a while, like once in a while. So just about a week ago, my sister actually had a thing with her friend. And then when she came back, like my mother's mood was kind of like, because my mother just, I think she just gets annoyed that you are having a life outside of her. I think maybe that touches her, or maybe she feels abandoned. Whatever it is, I know she has her own issues, but whatever it is, she just kind of wants to make you uncomfortable that you are having a life of your own. She wants to make you feel guilty. So when my sister came back at, I think it was also at around 9, I wasn't moody with her because, first of all, I'm not her parent, unlike her who was trying to parent me while I was out on a braai and calling me and texting me as if she is my mother. And secondly, like, I just had no problem with her being out and about with her friends. I knew she was with her friends. I knew she was safe. Anything can happen, even if you with like friends that you think you are so safe with. Something can happen there, but we can only trust. We can only hope that you with trustworthy people and you're fine. So for me, I wasn't worried about my sister. As a matter of fact, since if maybe she came back at like 12 at night, then maybe we would be worried, like, how dare you come at 12? Like at 9, at freaking 9. Oh my goodness. So she came back and I was cool with her. My mother wasn't really talking to her because, she was feeling her own thing about my sister, clearly having fun without us, which for me I was fine with. And then when my sister came back, I wasn't moody with her. I didn't give her the silent treatment. I was speaking to her. But no, not my sister coming through for me and being in my corner, because she also knows how it feels when my mother acts up because she doesn't want us to have fun by ourselves. She knows how that feels. But when I come back, my sister joins in my mother's mood and she doesn't talk to me too. I'm like, okay, so it's like that, sister. Like, one thing I can trust in this life is that I don't have my sister in my corner. That is one thing I can trust for sure about my sister, that I don't have her in my corner. Like I'm trying to accept that, okay, I'm not going to really have my mother in my corner, but can I at least have my sibling? Can I at least have my sister? No. So they both moody at me. They're not talking to me. Okay, cool. I'm like, I'm just going to go to sleep because there's nothing I can do about this. And I wasn't even trying to entertain that. Like, I didn't want to be begging them. I didn't want to, try to get them to talk to me because I wasn't guilty of anything. If there's anything I'm guilty of, it was having a good time. That I am fully guilty of. But there was nothing wrong that I had done. Prayer time didn't stop because I was not there. And I'm certain God was not mad at me for not making it to prayer time. Is prayer important? Absolutely. But God was not mad at me for having a good time. He knows I hardly get to have a good time. And I didn't come back home drunk. Like, there's no behavior that was out of order for them to justify the way they treated me, to justify their silent treatment. And throughout the night, I was texting them, letting them know, so they knew I was safe. It's not like they were worried out of their minds. They knew I was safe because I kept texting them and telling them the lie that I was telling them that the transport is not here. But they knew I was safe. I go to sleep, and then when I wake up the next day, it's a Sunday. My sister's going to church. My mother's going to drop her off. Guess who is still not talking to me? My mother and my sister. It broke my heart. Not that they were not talking to me, because I expected that childish, immature behavior. Like, if my mother had a problem with me coming back at that time, this is what I think of my mother, and I always try to say, to kind of like give a disclaimer when I say this, that I don't say this as a way to disrespect my mother, but my mother doesn't have a backbone. If my mother has a problem with me coming at that time, first of all, there isn't like really a set time here at home because, first of all, we are adults, but there isn't like really a set time of like, be back at home by 7. Because usually when you know you're going to be late, you just let them know. And that's that. You just tell them that, hey, let's say maybe you go into church for a revival and you're like, I'm going to church for a revival and it's going to end at 9. And that's that. That's just what we do. There isn't like a set time. Now, obviously, you can imagine that you can't really get back at home from like 11 p.m., 12 p.m., 1 p.m. I think that would be insane. Like, that's just like a known thing that we're not going to come back that late. But anything from like 9, 10, it's still within a reasonable time to come back home, according to me at least. And so when I wake up and I realize that they're still not talking to me, they're giving me the silent treatment, which is actually an emotional abusive tactic. The silent treatment is it's emotionally abusive, because if you have an issue with me, address it. If you are angry at me, good Lord, yell at me, shout at me if you must. But don't give me the silent treatment, because it's like you want me to crawl and like roll on my knees and like kind of like beg you, kind of suck up to you, because that's what the silent treatment actually does. Because if this person is not talking to you, ignoring you, you end up feeling the urge to like suck up to them, like maybe offering, can I make you tea? Like you're trying to get them to smile, you're trying to get them to laugh. And I've fallen for that 1,000 times. But now I don't. So I woke up in the morning, I greeted them, I saw that they were still in this mood. My sister, the one who knows how it feels to go out and come back and experience my mother's mood. But no, she is in full cahoots with my mother's mood, something that I haven't done to her. Anyway, I wake up, I say good morning. I can obviously tell they did respond to that, because the previous night when I apologized for coming back late, no one responded. And so I went to bed without anyone saying a word to me. So the next morning when I greeted them, they responded, but I could tell that they were still in their mood. Why? Because I went out and I had fun without them. That's the only reason. Because I went to a braai with a friend that they don't know. And not because they're worried. If you're thinking, no, they were so worried about you, they were worried that you're going with a friend that they don't know in this unsafe world. No, that's not it. That is not the reason. I am 150% sure that is not the reason. What annoyed them is that I'm not including them in this part of my life. And I'm just having fun and having a good time by myself, because what a crime. What a crime it is for me to have a life of my own. What a crime it is for my mother's children to have a life of their own, to have a good time, to stay out a little bit late, even though they hardly even do that. Like maybe in a month it happens once, but sometimes it doesn't even happen for months. Like that last Saturday when I came back late, I don't know when was the last time I actually came back late. First of all, I'm not even that type of person. I don't go to parties. I don't go to clubs. I don't do the partying life. But good Lord, the one time I get a chance to go out and have fun, I am penalized emotionally, because now they're giving me the silent treatment. But I was just like, I'm not going to suck up to you. I'm not going to say anything more. I'm not going to try to get you to talk to me. And so again, in the morning, I let them be. But what was really hurting me in that morning was that, Lord, I live in this unreasonable, abusive, unhealthy situation where my mother, going back to me saying that I'm not trying to be disrespectful when I say that my mother doesn't have a backbone, but if my mother really had an issue with me coming back late, talk to me about it. Yell if you must. I don't think it would be necessary, because I'm a grown up. I should be able to stay out at least up until 9. But again, if I'm in her house, I'm living in her house, so I can respect that. So she should have said that, hey, I don't like you coming back at this time. Address the issue. Don't just pout. Don't just walk around like a child who doesn't even know how to express their feelings. So they were moody up until it ended. And unfortunately, that's just how things work around here. When you get the silent treatment, you get it for as long as it takes, and then it just randomly stops. And then I guess we are back to normal, if I can even call it that. So by later Sunday that day, they were talking to me. And I think I was really pissed with my sister. I was really annoyed at her because she knows how that feels. But she was doing the very same thing that our mother always does to us. The one time when we go out or stay out a little bit late, when we are having a good time with our friends or whoever, and my mother is not included. She did the very same thing that she knows hurts, but she did it to me. I was just completely hurt that this is the unhealthy situation I have to live in. This is the unreasonable situation I have to live in. And unfortunately, I just have to live in it until I can stand on my own 2 feet and live and just go away and leave this chaos, because this is chaos. It's mental, it is insane, it is unhealthy, and it is very, very abusive.